welcome back to another Just 5 Mins. The eventual consistency edition, I like to think, because it has been a few weeks again. But also the breezy edition, because I've got a couple of flans going, because I'm starting to melt. But anyway, enough of moaning. So, the end of JavaScript it is, apparently. So, Douglas Crockford apparently said, this is a little while ago actually, back in August I think 2022, said, yeah, the best thing you can do with JavaScript today is retire it. I didn't realise, or I've forgotten, that Douglas Crockford invented the whole JSON, although if you think JavaScript object notation, it was already there, JavaScript objects, but you know, well done for creating something that's used massively around the world, isn't it, with JSON? But there's some quite interesting things. Obviously, isn't the death of JavaScript, although you know you can see why in a lot of ways, really. Anyway, but the point being is, there's been a lot of attempts to try to replace it. Things like Dart, and there's a lot of other stuff out there. You know, TypeScript has obviously, of course, helped to give it type safe practices and, you know, pseudo classes, and I know I'm probably going to get shot and people saying it's real classes, but anyway, but the point being is that, yeah, Douglas Crockford has said, yeah, best thing you can do is throw JavaScript away. But when you look at it from Stack Overflow, I think, when was this? Back in not long ago, so what would it have been, around about May 2023, JavaScript is 65% of the code, sort of what the people write. And you think down there you've got TypeScript is 34%, and you're really down into things like C# and stuff like that, 27%, PHP 20%, and things like that. But anyway, there was some the usual sort of yearly Stack Overflow sort of things that go on about the surveys of what languages people use, etc. But interestingly, there's some quite you know, another little thing that I'd probably read at the time and then forgotten. But Brendan Eich, I can never pronounce his right name, EICH, you know, anyway. He invented the language for Netscape back in 1995, didn't he? JavaScript, crikey. And apparently in just 10 days. So he said something, you know, in May of 1995, apparently, he did 10 days of hard work, didn't sleep much. But anyway, it was, if you think, what else was there, you know? I mean, it is it's hard to go back and say, let's just reinvent everything, isn't it? Anyway, but the idea is that, yeah, Douglas Crockford, you know, relatively recently said, you know, you should ditch JavaScript, which brings me on, I have to say, my sort of, because it's not going away, is it? Let's face it. I know it's a little bit of link baity sort of title, really, because you can't, I mean, you can start to morph things. I mean, I know there's lots of things going on, but I guess it's the age-old problem. Unless you get the mass popular sort of vote, if you like, of what to use and where to go, it's going to be very difficult. And JavaScript is just sort of everywhere, isn't it, really? So, and everybody knows it. And there are things like TypeScript that help for sure to do the transpiling. But I didn't realise Douglas Crockford mentioned something called, a language called E that he was helping work on. To his credit, you know, he's tried to fix a lot of the problems in JavaScript, as is mentioned anyway. I've got a couple of links that I'll put into the notes below. But I have to say, you know, I'm going to mention that word Blazor and the latest round of stuff, which is, I think it was a code word of Blazor United, where they've essentially, that's probably another episode on its own, but essentially brought the WebAssembly world and the server-based version of server-side version of Blazor, sorry, together. And even cleverer than that, where you can actually have it in auto mode, where a Blazor app can sort of use server-side until the WebAssembly is loaded. Now, the WebAssembly isn't that big anymore. I mean, over the iterations over the last 2 or 3 years, it's not a... I don't think it's a big deal these days myself, but at the same time, with all server-side rendering and everything else, it sort of brings the latest version of Blazor, certainly coming out in .NET 8. It's in preview at the moment. It's got some quite nice sort of magic in there, I think. But that's another episode, I think. But yeah, so I don't think JavaScript's going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, talk to the Angular, Vue, React developers out there. But anyway, it's an interesting perspective, an interesting time where we are. And I've realised I should start calling these episodes just 6 minutes, because they always seem to be a little bit over 5 minutes. So it's a ramble. It's all about JavaScript, but it isn't. So until next time.